Hey everyone, it's Jen, and today I'm here to do a review of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Okay, so I'm just going to start this review by saying that I loved this book. So this is a science fiction novel, and the first character we meet is named Rosemary Harper, and she is a human who's just signed on to be part of the crew of the ship Wayfarer. So in this book, the ship Wayfarer has a crew made up of humans and aliens from all different races. So Wayfarer, the ship that they are all on, is a tunnel ship, and so what the ship does is it creates space highways so you can space jump from one area to the next. And honestly, the science was the least interesting part of this book. So the plot of the book, loosely, is that the crew has signed on for a long-haul mission. They have to travel to this very far area of space to a planet, a small angry planet that's just been added to the Galactic Alliance in order to create a tunnel from there to the center of the galaxy and the government and where all the other planets are. So many of the sci-fi and fantasy books I've read lately have such a big focus on war or revolution or fighting, so it was really nice for me to have a change of pace because this sci-fi was much more of a character story. The world in this novel was so well built, considering that it is only 400 pages and that this is the author's first book. I was astounded. There's so much history and color to this world, and not just for the human characters, but for all the alien races as well, and the history of their sort of galaxy and their government, and each species has its own story to it, and it was just amazing. I love the way that the story of this world was sort of given to us piece by piece and not info-dumped on us immediately with no context. Honestly, the science in this book wasn't incomprehensible because the book sort of framed the way we learned about the science as if we're learning through Rosemary's eyes, and she's not a science person, so the rest of the crew sort of explains the science of what they're doing with making tunnels in a very simple way that was very easy to understand, and it didn't make me want to skip over it like I do with a lot of sci-fi novels. So one of my favorite things about this story was the characters. They were all so great and so unique, and I felt just from the first few chapters I had a really good handle on who each of the characters was. The characters all had great dynamics with each other, and their dialogue and action really helped shape how each character related to other characters and talked and sort of informed us of their flaws and their relationships, and even told us about their society, because each of the characters on this ship comes from a different sort of society, whether they're human or alien. And then as the novel progresses, each character sort of has a moment in which you learn a lot more about them, through their history, through the history of their people, or what sort of brought them personally to the ship. So the plot can be criticized as being a little bit meandering, but honestly, I didn't mind at all. We don't really get any action until the end, but honestly, I liked that better. I'm sick of sci-fi where all people want to do is fight. This novel was much more about the journey than about the destination, which honestly to me was the least interesting part of the novel. I was never sure where the story was going to go next, or where the ship was next going to stop for a supply or for a visit, so it was really nice, and sort of each stop or incident read as its own little vignette rather than a cohesive whole, and I thought that was great since the novel spans quite a length of time in these characters' life. So I highly recommend this book. Even if sci-fi isn't usually your thing, I feel like the science part of this is really light, and the aliens I honestly found very relatable and very well written and just fascinating. At first I got heavy Firefly vibes from this, but honestly the characters in the world are so unique and so great that it really stands on its own. So that's why I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. So Becky Chambers is writing a sequel to this book called A Close and Common Orbit, although from what I can see of the blurb on Goodreads, it's not going to be a direct sequel to this book, so it's not going to follow the exact same characters in the exact same ship. It follows two characters who were a part of the first novel, but weren't necessarily the main characters. So that comes out in October. So this book actually isn't out yet in the United States. It doesn't come out in the US until July 5th, 2016. So if you're in the UK, I recommend picking it up today. And if you're in the US, maybe get someone from the UK to send you a copy because this cover is much better than the American cover. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. So if you've read this book, please let me know down in the comments so we can talk about it. And if you want to know what I'm reading at all times, follow me on Goodreads. If you would like to see more of my reviews, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!